It was an old, crumpled photo hidden in the pocket of a man who swore he'd never loved anyone. But when I saw it, my heart tightened. It was me, young and smiling like I had no fear in the world. And he kept that secret for over 50 years. Do you have any idea what it's like to carry a love like that in silence? If you want to know what really happened between me and a man who chose God, but kept my smile for himself, hit subscribe now. And don't miss what comes next. You wouldn't believe what I found one quiet spring morning. I was cleaning the sanctuary, just like any other day. I've been helping at this church for decades, since before I even retired. It's peaceful here, quiet, a place where time seems to stop. But that day, time came rushing back. I reached into the inner pocket of Father Michael's cassock and pulled out something unexpected. A photo. Old, crumpled, faded, but unmistakable. It was me. Me as a young woman. Smiling. Happy. The kind of smile you only have before life. Teaches you how to hide your feelings. My hands started shaking. My chest tightened. How did he have this? He always said he never loved anyone, that he gave his heart to God. But this photo told another story. One I didn't even know he was keeping. I was born in 1956, in a small town in Texas. My parents were deeply religious. Church every Sunday, prayers before every meal, confession every first Saturday. I grew up surrounded by faith, but also by silence. Emotions weren't really talked about. You just endured. I was always curious, maybe even a little too much for my own good. At 19, I started coming to church more often. Not because I suddenly found God, but because of him. Father Michael. He was young, gentle, and had this way of speaking that made you feel like he truly saw you. I never expected anything to come from it. I knew the rules. Priests don't fall in love. They don't look at women the way he sometimes looked at me. But still, something began to grow. Quietly. Secretly. And I wasn't ready for how deep it would go. It was a rainy Sunday afternoon. The service had ended, most people had gone home, and I was sitting alone in the back pew, lost in thought. That's when I heard footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. I looked up, and there he was, Father Michael. He didn't say much at first, just stood there for a second, then sat beside me. "You always stay after Mass," he said quietly. I smiled, nervously. "It feels peaceful here." He nodded, and then, almost whispering, he said something I'll never forget. Sometimes God listens better when we're alone. His voice was soft, but those words hit me like thunder. It wasn't just what he said. It was how he said it, like he knew exactly what I was feeling. And maybe, just maybe, he felt it too. That moment changed everything. From that day on, nothing would ever be the same. It happened in the parish library. I had borrowed a book weeks before, one of those spiritual reflection guides, and I finally brought it back. He was shelving books when I walked in. When he looked up, his eyes met mine and for a second time stopped. "I wondered if you'd come back," he said, with a small smile. I don't know why, but that simple sentence made my heart race. We started talking, about the book, about faith, about life. And somehow, the conversation drifted to love. Not the kind you read about in scripture, but the kind that lives inside you. Quietly, almost hesitantly, he said, "Sometimes love finds you in the most unexpected places, even when you've promised yourself it never would." I looked at him and knew that he felt it too, that behind the collar and the vows, there was a man who was falling, just like me. And from that day on, we couldn't pretend anymore. After That day in the library, something changed. I couldn't stop thinking about his words, about him. Every time I came to church, my heart raced before I even saw him. We started meeting more often, always discreetly. A quiet conversation after Mass, a brief exchange in the hallway. Nothing obvious to anyone else. But to us, it was everything. He became someone I looked forward to seeing. Someone who made me feel seen in a way no one ever had. And I could tell he felt it too, though he fought it. Some days he'd pull away, become distant, like guilt had taken over. But then there were other days when he'd smile at me in a way that made my knees weak, and I knew he couldn't deny it either. This wasn't just friendship. It wasn't just comfort. It was something deeper. Something neither of us had planned. And slowly, without meaning to, we were falling. We started meeting more intentionally. Not in the church, not where anyone could see, but in quiet corners of town, early mornings at the park, or late walks after Mass when everyone had gone home. We talked about everything, our dreams, our fears, the weight of expectation. He told me about his seminary years, how he'd once questioned his calling, how he used to imagine a life beyond the collar. I told him about my loneliness, how I always felt like something was missing. Until I met him. One night, under the moonlight, he handed me a folded piece of paper. "I wrote this a long time ago," he said quietly. I opened it with trembling hands. It was a letter, full of words he couldn't say out loud. Words that confessed what he tried so hard to deny. That he loved me, that he had for a while. And that every day, he fought the urge to say it. I cried. Not because it was easy, but because I knew how much it cost him to finally let it out. One night. After a long silence between us, I did something I never thought I'd have the courage to do. I waited for him in the sacristy after Mass. When he came in, I closed the door behind me. He looked surprised, maybe even a little nervous. I took a deep breath and said, "Michael, I love you." Just like that. No hesitation, no fear. His face changed. Like I had said the one thing he'd been trying not to hear. He didn't speak at first. Then he whispered, "Don't say that, unless you mean it." I stepped closer and said, "I mean it. I don't know what it means or where it leaves us, but I mean it." He closed his eyes, as if holding back more than just tears. And in that moment, I knew. I wasn't the only one who had been hiding. He had too. There was a place he used to go when he was younger, before the seminary, before the vows. A quiet hill just outside town where you could see the whole valley bathed in moonlight. One evening, he asked me to come with him. We walked in silence until we reached the top. The sky was clear, stars scattered like whispers across the dark. He sat down on a worn-out bench and patted the space beside him. I joined him, and for a long time, neither of us spoke. Then he turned to me and said, "This is the only place I still feel free." His voice was soft, almost fragile. And then, without warning, he took my hand. Not in secret, not in shadows, just held it. And in that simple gesture, everything changed. I felt his heart beating through his fingers. I knew the weight he carried. But in that moment, we weren't priest and parishioner. We were just two souls who had found something real, even if the world would never understand. That night on the hill changed something between us. We didn't suddenly start holding hands in public or whispering sweet nothings in the hallway. We couldn't. But something deeper took root. A quiet understanding. A shared truth that didn't need to be spoken out loud. We kept meeting in secret, always careful, always aware of how fragile everything was. He would leave books on a bench near the church with certain passages underlined, words that said what he couldn't. I started baking him cookies and leaving them in the parish office with a small note. For the man who carries more than anyone should. He'd smile when he saw me next, eyes full of gratitude and pain. There were days he pulled away, buried under guilt and duty, and there were days I doubted everything. If this was real, if it was worth it. But every time I thought of walking away, he'd say something, do something, that reminded me why I stayed. Because even in silence, our love grew. He's gone now. Has been for a few years. I still go to that same church, still sit in the back pew sometimes just to remember. Finding that photo in his pocket was like hearing his voice again. Like he was finally telling me what he never could while he was alive. That he never forgot me. That even behind the collar and the silence, he loved me. And I loved him. Not perfectly. Not easily. But deeply. Love doesn't always need permission or ceremony to be real. Sometimes it lives in quiet glances, stolen moments, and letters never sent. I held on to this story for over 50 years, and now that you've heard it, I hope it reminds you that love, real love, leaves marks on your soul, even when the world never knows it existed. If you made it this far, thank you. Thank you for listening to a story I kept hidden for most of my life. If this touched you in any way, please leave a comment. Tell me where you're watching from. Maybe you have a story like mine, tucked away in the corners of your heart. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss the next story. Because everyone has a past. Everyone has a moment that changed them forever. And maybe yours is the next one I'll get to share.